So Raj, let me ask the usual parent question. So you are from a family of writers like Abraham Verghese, or scientists like the famous Stanford Professor Tom Kailath, and you were 7 when you went to America, but you decided to go into sports. So how did that happen? Did your family think that was normal, or did they panic that you're not going to be a scientist?
No, we moved from Bombay when I was 7 to the Bay Area, and I turned on the television right away, and I just fell in love with the broadcast of the game, American football. Not the game itself, which I love, but the actual broadcast of it. So since that time, I wanted to be in television sports. But at that point, I was too young and too stupid to know that Indians weren't supposed to go into TV, American TV. Indians weren't supposed to go into American TV sports. But it's the beauty of being young.
Yes.
And to answer your other question, I come from a family that's not the doctors and engineers, though we have plenty of doctors and engineers. We have a lot of writers, poets, journalists. So my parents said, whatever you want to do, you do it. So I had a great amount of support from the family.
You know, in your journey, you've been a PR person, you've been a Super Bowl staff, you've done various things, and then when you broke to actually being a sportscaster, there was an interesting episode about your name. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah.
Well, which year was it?
This is 1995, and there was 0 Indian sportscasters in the country, 0. So I finally I send out my resume, a resume tape, to 40 different stations across America. I got 30 rejections. The other 10, I didn't even get a rejection. They just never responded to me. I finally got a job in Arizona, and they look at my name, and they said, you're really good. Are you black? I said, no, I'm not black. Are you Mexican? No, I'm not Mexican. You Puerto Rican? They didn't have any idea what an Indian guy was, what he was doing in the NBC office also. So finally I get the job through some arm twisting, and right before I go to work the next day, he says, by the way, we want to talk to you about your name. I said, that's really easy, R-A-J. He goes, no one's going to know how to pronounce that and what it means, and it looks really odd when you put it up next to an NBC peacock there. So we're going to go with Rodger. R-O-G-E-R. So I had I had a come to Jesus moment. I had to decide, do I say, no, I'm standing up for myself and my family and the name I was given, or am I the first guy in a war, and I'm the one that's going to get my leg blown off, So I chose to say, okay, Rodger it is. But I will come back, and I will use my real name when the time is right. And
how did that happen, your real name?
Yes. So then finally, a couple of years later, I said, it's time. We're going to go with the real name, Raj, and we're going to open the door. And from that point, we had 10s, 20s, 50s, 100 Indian journalists come on TV in America. So it's been great.
Yeah. I mean, you started with traditional TV, and there's been a lot of shift. There's been streaming of sports. I mean, I remember actually technologies where you could see from the floor, you can see from the wicket, you can see, all sorts of technology has really pervaded sports. If there's one field that has really changed because of technology, probably it's sports.
Just listening to this last 30, 45 minutes with some great panelists here, and what Hannah was saying, what you're talking about, I've been thinking this for years, and now, finally, someone's listening. Sports is business, sports is data, sports is medicine, sports is legal, sports is AI now. If you want to follow the money, go into sports. I'm not a money guy, I'm a journalist, but if you are business savvy, like 98% of this room, follow where the money is. And you can get there through various channels. So if you're the traditional Indian parent or grandparent, I only want doctor, engineer. You only want doctor and engineer because that provides you a stable income. Well, now go into sports. That'll provide you a stable income. And in the United States, where I'm based, the floodgates are open. You look at every front office in major sports in America, it's Indians. Whether it's the general manager, the owner, like Vivek Ranadive of the Sacramento Kings, the data analytic guys, the trainers, the journalists talking about it, this is where you want to go.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about the sports brats, right? I mean, sports has created this hero worship with lots of money, lots of freedom, and how do we make sure it doesn't get to their head? Because it does. And how do we develop a more holistic approach? Because I do worry about the arrogance and the I can get away with anything attitude that comes.
I think once you surround yourself with athletes and with good athletes, good coaches, and good instructors, we talked about our gentleman from the UK here, that arrogance goes away because you get your butt kicked, right? You learn from a good coach. It's not about the outcome of the game. It's about how you train. We talked about those rowers training 6 hours a day. It's just the process, right? If you're a startup, you're not thinking, I'm only starting this company because I just want an exit and make them millions of dollars. If that's the case, you're probably not going to succeed. You're starting the company to do good or to serve a need somewhere. The ultimate goal, if you end up with that money, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't think the arrogance comes if there's proper training.
Yeah.
And we were talking about so many different sectors here with the doctors here earlier in the day. It's all infrastructure. If we have infrastructure to create healthcare, I was in Bangalore in 1990. This wasn't like this here. If you have infrastructure to create technology, which India's done doing healthcare, it's done technology. And now if you have infrastructure to create sports, and you do what the Mathur families might be trying to do is start an institute here, that will pay off. And you shoot for the moon, you end up in the stars. That's the slogan. So for our sons, they want to be professional baseball players and soccer players or football players. So they don't end up that 1%. They don't end up as the professionals, but they end up as the chief legal, chief data, chief doctor, chief journalist of that sector.
So tell me, Raj, in your career so far, like one or two incidents that really stand out for you, where it was like utter disappointment or utter excitement or meeting your hero. Like, who was the person you always wanted to meet in sports, and when you met him, you were like, wow?
I mean, I've had the honor and pleasure to meet so many world-class athletes. Michael Jordan would be one that I've enjoyed the most. And we do an interview together for NBC, and later that night I get a call into the newsroom. He says, hey, Michael wants to invite you out to play pool. Okay. I'm 25 years old, so this is great. So I show up after I got off air, take off my makeup, and it's midnight now, and I show up at this place where he tells me to go. And at 5 in the morning, I get out of there.
Were you playing pool the whole time or something else?
I could tell you half of the story. Just had a great time with him. So there's one of these guys that's iconic, right? It's like going out with Messi or something. And we had pool and drinking and just had a great time. 5 in the morning, we all stumble out of there. And then 3 hours later, he had an event which I had to go to cover as a journalist. And I show up at 8 a.m., he's bright-eyed, like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
So that was my Michael Jordan story. When I put on this headset, by the way, so 20 years ago, I'm doing an event in San Francisco, and they put on one of these new headsets. Back then, this was new, before you had to hold a mic. And I remember putting it on, and it was a white speaker thing, And I joked with the guy, coming from Rodger and Mathai. I said, hey, one of these days, you're going to mic me up, and it's going to be brown. And they looked at me like, wow. And this is the Silicon Valley. So I'm sure half the people in that room was designed this thing. And the next year I showed up, they have brown ones.
So was Michael Jordan as wonderful as we think he is?
Yeah, he was. He's these public figures, they have a public side, but I think when you're an ultra megastar, you, especially now with the access to the fans, if you're quiet or if you're two-faced, I think word gets around pretty quick.
So my last question to you, what would you like to see happen in India for sports?
I would like to see the infrastructure being built out. Because there's no reason that, you're right, it takes a generation to create, but there's no reason that we're going to sit here in 20 years, just like when I was in Bangalore 30 years ago, it was not a tech hub like it is, or Trivandrum where I was born. So in 20, 30 years from now, with infrastructure that started 2 to 3 years from now, it will pay off. And again, it's where the jobs are. So you don't have to be that Indian parent or grandparent that says you can only do 2 things. You can actually let your kids and grandkids do whatever they want, and they'll still find great success.
Thank you so much, Raj. Thanks.